many compositions out, many ways to find a way to fly something that you feel comfortable with and you think you can win with. In order to see if these teams can win with it, though, we are going to send it to the arena where Colonel Kurtz and Tian Zaharin will break down the match.
Thank you very much to our analyst desk colleagues. You join me, Colonel Kurtz and Tian Zaharin, for another thriller. This time round, Slow Children at play against Can I Bring My Drake? Can I Bring My Drake on the blue side with the double Leshak, those triangle ships paired with a Rapier, Vigilant Blackbird, double Deacon, and the double Maulus for control. What do we see on the red side for Slow Children, Tian?
So bringing another medium gun spam with a double curse and a double crew. That's crazy work there. This is absolutely thrilling. That double curse is going to put out so much new pressure at long range and so many attacking disruptors. Those are going to make the Leshaks really suffer, as those Leshaks, one tracking disruptor for range disruption just limits their range to like 50, 40 kilometers. That's sick. So those curses really paid out here, I think. And double crew for the long range webs are going to fight the Vigilant and the Rapier of Control here. That's going to be interesting. So as the
If
match
I'm a
starts,
Leshak
we'll
pilot,
see how both teams act
if
here.
if I'm a Leshak pilot and I'm seeing two curses on the other side, I'm going to be feeling pretty upset. Like you say, those tracking disruptors are going to severely hamper their efforts with both sides warping in at nearly max range. I think Blue side coming in at 40 there. That range is going to be increasingly important. But one thing to note, we've got two Mauluses on one side and only one on the other. That means they have a serious damp advantage. They can effectively control the damp war and win it and control the range and dictate it. But you're not going to have much luck trying to damp down curses. Those recon ships have a massive lock range. So those damps aren't going to help you
You're
much, and you're
right.
not going to be able to save your Leshaks a whole lot.
You're right, but I want to point out here that Slow Children that played the Maulus did a crazy good job because both Mauluses and the Blackbird are completely damned out at the moment. So he spread all his damage to those three ships, and Can I Bring My Check is not applying any of their EWAR at the moment. No jams from the Blackbird and no dams from both those Mauluses at all. Crazy work from that Maulus pilot. So really, really well done there. Before getting damned out himself, he managed to completely shut off the E-War of Can I Bring My Jake, and they're already at the disadvantage with the double curse. So it's going to be really interesting and probably an easy card for Slow at this point.
I think while they've won the damp war at this point in time, both teams sat at great distances from each other, not putting down a lot of damage, but we do see the Leshaks starting to charge in towards the big red blob. I think if it's me and I'm on the Slow Children side, I'd probably be looking to try and pressure these Deacons with those medium guns. But we do see that Maulus take a huge amount of damage suddenly for Slow Children. If they lose that Maulus, they're going to completely lose their damp control of this arena. And it does go down. Can I Bring My Drake now has damp superiority to control the lock range as they do charge in towards that micro jump beacon where all of these ships are currently pinned in the corner. Will they jump away to try and get some range and regain that control war? But at the moment, it's not looking great. And if they can take down this curse of Ryan, they could be in real trouble.
Yeah, the longer those Leshaks stay on grid and the longer they can finally shoot, they will do so much damage over time. That Rapier of Loser is now taking a lot of damage, but he is supported by both the Deacons. We see a lot of damage on Lupa Belcher and that Kruer, trying to get rid of that low end bit there. I really like that because Triglavian guns are known for their quite good tracking. Supported with those Vigilant webs, they will really, really hit well there. Looks like that Kruer will not be able to tank here much longer, while the Rapier is completely fine again here. Also see a bit of damage on Mystery Momaki in his Molus. That seems to be mostly Jones, and he can just run around for now, still free, as that Kruer does go down here.
Yeah,
And
I'm not
immediately
sure what
damage on that second Kruer.
not sure what the thought process was there from Slow Children. They all grouped up on that beacon. I thought maybe they were going to jump in the back and try and purge off some of this control, but they've elected to ram in, and we've now got a big brawl going on. And if there's one ship you probably don't want to try and brawl, it's a Leshak.
It's the Leshak.
For those that don't know, the Leshaks, they use spooling weapon damage. So you activate the weapon, and as time goes on, the damage goes up and up and up and up until a point where it reaches maximum output, and there's not a lot of things that could tank two Leshaks fully spooled, applying their damage. All things considered, though, they are track. Well, one of them is tracking disrupted, which means it's not going to be able to track very well, I would imagine, and is going to struggle to apply its full damage and struggle to hit. Doesn't matter how much you've spooled, if you can't hit the target, you're wasting your time anyway. But yeah, I'm not sure that the sort of ramming tactic was the way to go into those Leshaks. But we shall see. It does appear to be paying off at this point in time, as the Vigilant taking a lot of damage, just about clinging on, burning through a little bit of structure. Those Deacons desperately trying to keep it alive, but with the newts from the curses, they're really going to struggle. But I think in an ideal world, as the Vigilant does fall, Slow Children get hold of a Deacon and use those medium guns to their full advantage and get rid of their Logi in any hope of killing off these Leshaks.
I would agree with that. But this time, the curses are not only evil because of their shacking disrupts, but also because of the huge nude power they have. I'm not sure if it's actually the right call to keep the nudes on the deacons, but maybe to just fully focus on those Leshaks, because a nuded Leshak won't be able to shoot and do anything. But as you said, I think they hurt you. The Deacon of Fernsgård is now taking a lot of damage. It is still getting wrapped by his buddy, so they might be cap injected fit, so they can keep wrapping through the nudes. He is seems to be really wrapping well here as Kian Kim Park and the curse is finally taking a lot of damage. I think maybe those Leshaks should have focused a bit earlier on those curses, tried to get them off. Curse doesn't have a lot of tank, but a lot of control and a lot of Ewar damage. So maybe just focusing a bit on those curses to get them down would be a good call, and it seems like they're doing that now as they lose their Maulers to drones, but they still have one Maulers left, and I don't think the sense dampeners really are that important right now. So they do take, well, the blue team here, the Can I Bring My Jake, take a lot of damage in their Blackbird now, so they might lose all of their Ewar, but that curse is still slowly losing its armor. So it'll be interesting to see if it will go down here under that double lash pressure.
Yeah, this is a really sort of bizarre melee, as we do see. I believe it was the Blackbird that went down there. That will be quite important. Getting rid of that, losing that ECM will cause some issues for the logistics. I do think it's a bit of a strange melee where both teams are sat on top of each other and neither really able to kill anything. But we do now see things that the House of Cards starting to fall as the first curse goes down and begins to free up the output of those Leshaks. Maybe they can start to grind down some of these battle cruisers as they do start to put some damage onto Kira. But I think ideally they should still try and kill this curse while they can. That curse isn't very far away, maybe 20, 30 kilometers from these Leshaks. If they can grab a hold of it and finish it off, that would be massive. With no control, they'll be free to start to burn through the Astartes and the Absolution. But the Slow Children do lose another ship. Sorry, that was Can I Bring My Drake? Sorry, losing their Lynx Magus there, which will obviously diminish the tank on those two Leshaks. But I think it's still quite close at this point in time. We're 4 points difference with two battleships and three battle cruisers on the other side still to go. It's all still to play for.
Now it's taking quite a bit of damage. A bunch, sorry. So it's gonna be interesting to see if they trade a Leshak for an Astarte. That wouldn't be a great trade for them, but that Astarte is taking a lot of damage now, and I think it's gonna die here quite soon. It's still wrapping a lot. I think that's local reps combined with the deacons, but I don't think it's gonna be enough here. It has a few percent health left, but yeah, there it goes down. And now it's two Leshaks versus Absolution Astarte, and there's the curse still alive. So is the Logi on both teams' sides. So this is really interesting to see. They basically only have those Leshaks left for DPS. Can I bring my Jake? That is, but Leshaks is all they need for DPS because that second Astarte is now taking a lot of damage. An interesting call, I think, to shoot those Astartes. Astartes are usually not that weakly tanked, but it does seem to pay out for them because if they get that second Astarte down, it's just Curse and Absolution for DPS. And Curse as well is not known for its huge DPS because it uses its high slot for newts and not for guns. So, does the Absolution, can it take down a Leshak? Under Deacon reps, I'm not sure. But first, they would have to kill that Astarte, and it doesn't look like they will be able to at the moment. So, they will have to wait for their spool up to go higher and higher before they can break it.
Yeah, we say Slow Children trying to burn through this Leshak, but at the same time, they were putting a lot of pressure on the one Deacon of Fern there. You probably saw it on the camera feed there, an absolute swarm of newt ships sat on top of the Deacon, but they made a fatal error of putting all of their newts on the Deacon they were shooting, which means that the Deacon that was repping him was free to keep his friend alive, and he has succeeded, which has meant this Leshak has lived for a very long time. And meanwhile, the Astarte Fazar, his armor bouncing up a little bit. He's living both, both living for a long time as these logistics frigates are fairly unmolested, allowed to keep repping. But I think they've made a bit of a critical error there. They could have killed off the one deacon if they'd have neutered the other one, but they failed to do so. But it does look like Alfonso in the Leshak is, and he does fall. That is a massive blow for the Can I Bring My Drake team. That's half of their damage gone. The question is, can the one Leshak put down enough damage with a curse still on the field? I don't think so. As they do lose one deacon, and that Leshak now has one deacon to try to keep it alive. The does seem to be swinging towards the slow children's side. But it'll all come down to what sort of incredible plays Ayumi can pull out the bag. But I think the odds might be stacked against them.
Yeah, I think what happened here was that the newts and the tracking disruptors of those curses eventually shut off the guns of Alfonso, and with that resetting completely his build because at the start they suddenly just started tanking while it was already super close to dying. So the started just suddenly started tanking again, and I think that was because the Leshak broke spool and had to start at low DPS again and start spooling up again. So that's why that Astarte didn't die when it should have. And I think that just points out again that after killing that first curse, they maybe should have continued with shooting the second curse and just getting all that Ewar off grid, because curse versus Lashak is not good. That's really not good. The nudes and the tracking disruptors really make those Triglavian ships suffer. So I think that might have been a bit of a misplay. And maybe if they had killed that second curse, would have had a better chance at cleaning up the high end.
Yeah, totally
Do you
agree.
think?
These Leshaks have massive DPS potential, but it's only useful if they can apply it. As we see, time runs out. Slow children at play take the victory, which unfortunately sends Can I Bring My Drake home? But Can I Bring My Drake? You can hold your heads high. That was an excellent attempt and a really close match. And we hope we see you next time round. And with that, we'll send it back to the desk.
Slow children at play have won slowly. We have the control mirror, one control team versus another. Neither team with the big DPS right out the gate, like you see from the rush comps, although Leshaks can slowly spool up to devastating amounts. However, these Leshaks were eventually vaporized after suffering the indignity of being cursed tracking disrupted for far, far, far too long. One of the things, though, that kept them hanging on was their deacons lived for a surprisingly long time until one magical thing happened. Misty, how did those deacons finally die?
Yeah. So, a very interesting match to watch to see how people fly their setups. The right team won, according to my analysis of who should have won that match. But there were various points throughout the match where the analysis channel in the background had caps lock messages about what should be done and what wasn't being done to ensure that the correct team won here. I was saying actually that, let me just scroll up and try and find it. I typed gang, they neutered Salate, and the other deacon died immediately. Yeah, I think the major issue that Slow had was an ineffectual use of their curses over the course of the match. At the very beginning, we saw that the Maulus managed to win the damp war, getting the two Mauluses and the Blackbird on the Can I Bring My Drake side damped out. At that point, you have a fair amount of space to work with, and I think that they didn't really capitalize on that. They waited until the Leshaks burned in and somehow managed to kill their Maulus. And then they just began to brawl, which isn't necessarily the wrong decision, but it's the fact that the curses were so poorly coordinated with their newts that they were never newting the right target at the right time, which made it very difficult for them to win. If they just neutered the deacon buddy, shot the other deacon that wasn't being neutered, it would have died immediately. They could have just gone straight through Leshaks if they wanted to. They could have taken out the vigilant and everything without any reps coming in. There's a lot that they could have done better to ensure that they won faster.